Welcome, everybody, to a very early edition of the CrossFire podcast. We kind of bumped things up today. I got a special guest. I want to go down the usual suspects because I want to take a little bit of time to introduce our guest. Our usual suspects contain our usual most hated, most loved YouTuber of all time, Crap Gamer. What's up, buddy? How are you today?
What's up? I'm happy to be here. I got here even though I tell you, with my Windows phone, I don't get the group text like on Twitter.
That kills me. That
I know,
absolutely.
right?
Because I know you always send that text out to me, and you make me feel. I feel real bad. You're like, is this a sabotage, Mooch? That's what's going on. I'm like, no, it's not. I promise. You know, I'm trying to.
but I'm glad, man. I'm here. I'm excited, man. We got a big guest here today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now I see Dreyer's muted, but I will just introduce him. Dreyer from ICXM, writer, Xbox Mad. Welcome, buddy, and I'm glad we can help you out because in South Africa it's only 9 o'clock versus
9
midnight.
p.m.
We usually bug you. So
No, usually you are. Well, it's better. I like this time frame.
I think this is going to work out a lot better. And I'm going to address the audience at the end as well. Clowns, welcome, buddy. We're going to need you for a technical reassurance because whenever we have a guest on, you like to go back and forth a bit. So welcome to the show, buddy.
Oh, thanks for having me, Mooch. I love being here.
Absolutely. And then Xbot448, who, regardless what we say, will tell you at the end of this show to meet him somewhere, sometime, playing Halo 5. Buddy, how you doing tonight?
I can't complain, man. And stay classy, San Diego.
Absolutely. Now, it brings me to a friend of mine that I'd like to say is a friend of mine because I've just been chatting with him during his personal affairs on vacation. Brad Sams, welcome to the show, first of all. Really, really an honor to have you. You have been the talk of the internet for about 3 weeks now. So Brad ends up dropping a nuclear bomb on the Xbox community, and then I hit him up. I say, Brad, I'd like to get you on. And he's like, sorry, I dropped the mic. I'm going on vacation. So,
yep. That's exactly what happened. Is I actually put my podcast early because I was like, damn it, I got all this stuff on like a week before, and I knew it was going to start to come out. And so I did it the day before I went on vacation, which was good and bad, but it was good because I got all the exposure and whatnot. But then everyone's like, hey, come hang out. And I'm like, sorry, guys, I'm going to the beach.
Which, by the way, you should be commended for that. That's an outstanding amount of like just patience and resilience you have. Because me, I would have been drawn right back into the internet. For some reason, as you can see, I'm very passionate about this. I know you're very passionate about this. And you know what? That leads me to my next point. We all got a chance to have a small sidebar with you just now offline. But there's a lot of people, Brad, that don't know you in the community that you and I think you're going to see because we've had some great people on the past few weeks. We were really blessed to have such people like Mike Ibarra and then Jez Gordon, who writes for Windows Central on recently, and I think you're going to get a lot of great exposure from the Xbox community from being on the show. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came up with the podcast that you do and who you are and how you kind of got involved with Microsoft?
Yeah, so the background of it, so I've been writing about Microsoft for probably about a decade now. Before I was doing what I'm doing now, I'm the executive editor of Petri and Thurrott, and we just bought IT Unity. I actually ran neowin.net for 7-8 years. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of where I got my start in the Microsoft world. Always just been a Microsoft fan. Had the original Xbox. I still remember its name. It was called Hambone. If you remember, all the original Xboxes had their own like gamer name when you unboxed them. Mine was Hambone. And just been a gamer for a really long time. And started podcasting. Really about it was July of last year. One, people had been asking me to do it, and I just kind of hesitated to do it because I couldn't figure out a format that worked. Because there was Windows Weekly, which is Paul and Mary Jo and Leo, and they go for like 2.5 hours, and they're all good friends and whatnot. But I wanted to do something that was like 45 minutes because that's all. Like I zone out after 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like I'm in a coma. So just start. You know what? I just turned the freaking camera on and just started talking, and refined it. The first couple episodes were really rough. I mean, just. Like
every one of ours is, and I'm glad you said that, Brad, because to be honest with you, if you had asked me to see some previous Crossfire podcasts, I would have had to edit the 3-hour marathons I have on this show. But go ahead, I apologize.
No, you're fine. And then so, I've been covering Microsoft and all that crap for a really long time. I just like what they do. They get the short end of the stick for a while. They're finally starting getting some love for what they're doing, and they've shot themselves in the foot 1,600 times. But here we are today. They've got Surface hardware. They've got an Xbox One. And the industry's changing, so it's a really interesting time to be watching these guys. And they've got a big week coming up next week, and I think I think the remainder of the year is going to be really, really interesting to see how Phil Spencer and his squad are finally really putting their touch on the Xbox brand.
And now that's great segue, by the way, Brad. I'm going to let the panel. We're all going to get a chance to talk to you one-on-one. But what I want to ask you first and foremost on this point is that 3 weeks ago you came out, you made some great comments, you got a lot of excitement going on in the community. What's come to fruition since you've made those predictions, and what do you still want to reiterate to the audience to let them know that what you said is still coming? So if we could, I'll break that back down into the first question. We talked a little bit about this offline. What exactly did you mention 3 weeks ago that we can expect to see possibly at E3, or that that's been broke by the news?
Sure. Let's jump back 5 weeks. Okay. Because actually 5 weeks ago I wrote a post that said, hey, Microsoft's got some hardware coming at E3, and at that time I really didn't know what it was. I knew that there was going to be a new standard controller, which is going to ship with the Xbox Mini. Don't get too excited about it. It's just a very small iteration of the one that ships now with the bigger one.
Okay.
But so I was like, hey, we got some hardware stuff, and then I got a nice dump of documentations with all this stuff. And so 3 weeks ago, talked about several things. We talked about the Xbox Mini. We talked about a smaller version of the Xbox. We talked about Microsoft merging the PC and Xbox gaming community. And then I also talked about these media streamers. Those were kind of the 3 high points. There's some other details in between. You can go back and listen to if you want, but that's really the big stuff. And since that leak or announcement or my thing, we've already seen Microsoft kind of hold good to what I was talking about. They're merging the Xbox and PC gaming platform, and they're doing it through the Xbox app on Windows 10 because they just added support for Win32, like the top 1,000 apps.
Yes.
And yeah, and they're starting to bring what they're doing with it, which I think is really smart. They're getting them introduced into this Xbox app, which was primarily for the console user, but now it's got PC elements. And I think we're going to start to see more and more and more of that. Look for that kind of theming to go next week.
Okay. That's great. Now, other things that we've heard recently. Now, let's get back to the controller. I'm glad that you kind of settled everybody in. My idea and interpretation, I read a little bit further into it, but I'm going to give you full credit for it, Brad, was I think what we're going to see in the remodeled is possibly the grips will be added to this new controller, and I believe you said maybe whatever board work may be done internally on the new controller to help the D-pad a little, but nothing major. Why break something? This thing is just impeccable as it stands. I think people will say it's the best controller. You've got PC gamers using the Xbox One controller. Yep. Why would they? Don't fix what's not broken. Is my point. What about the actual devices as far as the stick and possibly the what people are calling the Xbox TV versus the Apple TV?
Yeah. So this is, to be honest, I kind of hesitated when I talked about it, and I kind of regret saying it's coming at E3. These devices do exist. They very much exist in the flesh. And I know this one because I've seen the marketing material and the specs and all that stuff. Now the question is if it's going to be announced next, because they may not position it as a gaming device.
Correct.
And Microsoft might push it out, but these devices are coming, or at least exist. Mostly because if you look at the Apple TV and the Roku, Microsoft has nothing that competes with that at that price point. And they need something in the living room because these guys are eating their lunch. So what they're doing is creating a real simplified device or devices that will play into that price arena so that they don't get left out.
Is this a little too late, though, do you think? I mean, kind of like how Windows came into the phone business, just like on the 13th hour. I, myself, personally, Brad, am seeing that whether it be the stick or the TV device that we're talking about, you would plug into some sort of USB and then you'd be able to stream games. I think that's where Xbox has the advantage. You could be using other TVs as satellite. But is it a little too late in your opinion? Because this is and crap. By all means, you can chime in here. This is something that Crap Gamer had brought up on a podcast we'd done about a week ago, where we think these are great ideas. We're just hoping that this isn't another case where Microsoft is a little too late to the party.
I tend to agree. The thing that frustrates me about Microsoft is you're right. You're hitting the nail on the head. They're getting these ideas together, but they don't move fast enough.
Right.
They really don't. And the thing is, Microsoft has what they have Groove. They've got a video streaming service, or you can buy videos and all that stuff. But they don't have a cheap and effective way to get that content to your big screen. I mean, think about the people who go out and buy the $199 Windows 10 laptop. They're not going to be spending $300 on an Xbox One just so they can get that Groove music onto their home stereo.
Right.
They're not going to do it. And so they need something that goes after that market.
Hasn't there been rumors of this Xbox Mini for years now? I remember hearing about it years ago, without the disk drive and things like that. And now, because we saw some patents leak not long ago, and people thought it maybe was an Xbox One Slim or something like that. It was a really small motherboard with better Wi-Fi, right? I mean, that's what this thing is, and I mean, they're really late with getting these things out. Plus, it could be very confusing. That's why I said I wouldn't bank on them announcing these particular things during E3, or at least not on the stage, because it might confuse some people. I was just curious on what your thoughts are on.
Oh, I think you're spot on. Microsoft is, and you can probably know this just as well as I do. Microsoft has a terrible communication problem. Look at how they launched the Xbox One, and so
I don't want to look at it.
Trying to get that around.
Yeah, I think we all tried to drink that one out of our memories. But it's you guys are right. Like these aren't crazy thoughts. They're a little bit late. I don't know if they're necessarily late on the gaming aspect, because now that we know that the Neo isn't going to come out, be announced this year, so I think they're kind of in step with Sony. But at the same time, even if they're in step, they're losing the console sales race for that matter. So that's what's frustrating about Microsoft.
Now,
And I know. Go ahead, Greg. No, go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say, have you heard anything? Because the NX, everybody was excited for new hardware this year, I guess. NX isn't going to be at E3. Now Sony come out and said, hey, the Neo's real, which I already knew, and most people in this podcast already knew because we all kind of saw the documents and stuff. But that's not going to be at E3. Do you think that this is a ploy by them to kind of see what Microsoft is going to do? And then what do you think Microsoft does? Because I've heard that they have a Slim that's no more powerful than the one that we have now. And they also have something like the Scorpio or whatever. So what are your thoughts going forward that Microsoft does now?
So to go back to the Sony thing, I don't think Sony had anything to do with baiting Microsoft out. I mean, these hardware things are years in the making. It's not like they just say, "Oh hell, we're gonna announce some new hardware at E3." Like they probably made that decision to show or not show something at E3 this year, probably in October. Like that's when they start having to lock that stuff down, at least from a hardware perspective. Gaming's is all over the place. Now, for Microsoft, I don't think they're going to talk about Scorpio either. I think they're going to bring out this new Xbox Mini and talk it up and say, hey, look, we've got it smaller, and I believe it's going to be white based on what I've seen. Yeah. Now, that stuff can change in a minute. It could come out and be purple for all that I know. I should say the information I've seen suggests that it's white. Mm-hmm. And so... yeah, so they're going to come out with this little thing and say, hey, look, here it is, at hopefully a good price point. And I don't think there was any bait and switch between Sony and Microsoft here, because that would have had to have happened like way long ago.
Now, Brad, I just want to say something, because you did bring up the initial reveal of the Xbox One and the PS4, that era. Okay, so let's since we were tapping back in that memory. Here's the thing, and this has been my shtick, and I think a lot of people that watch my channel and follow me on Twitter know this. The thing is, Brad, what you just said, I completely agree with you. If we were talking about a legitimate and straightforward company, but we're talking about Sony. See, so you have to take that with a grain of salt. Sony is this is the same Sony that we are pretty sure, nobody's ever given me a document, but Brad, you give me your opinion on this too. We all firmly kind of believe that last minute, 13th hour, Sony pulled that camera out of the box when they saw the reaction from Microsoft, and they came out saying we're going to share games. They knocked the camera out, which took the $75, round it down to $100 difference. That's the difference we saw. I mean, listen, I do things. For a living, I give presentations. I do all kinds of things. I have PowerPoint. When I do that, I have graphics. I have things I have like standards I have to adhere to. Okay. Sony got up on stage in front of millions of people in the press at E3 2013, and they basically showed. Somebody's playing a little. I appreciate that theme music. They basically showed a $3.99 price tag on a white background and black lettering. That is just, it looks like something that was thrown together. Yeah. So the fact that they threw that out, I really think that Sony may be, and we're not sure, they may be doing a counterattack here from the rumors that are coming out from Scorpio. Is there anything that you would say could lead us to believe that, or that's just completely jargon?
It makes for a really good conspiracy theory. I do believe that, to your point, about back when they looked at the PS4 and they looked at the Xbox One, once they saw the price point, they said, ooh, we need to beat that. And I could buy into that rumor. This one just seems a little too close to home, just too quick, that I mean, if Microsoft, I mean, think about what they would get. Look, if Microsoft goes out there and says, "Hey, look, here's an Xbox Mini. It does damn near the exact same thing as the Xbox One, and that's it." And then Sony goes out and talks about their next-gen hardware. It's going to make Microsoft look like shit.
Absolutely.
So the fact that they're not talking about it means to me that this isn't the time that they're just trying to screw over Microsoft.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean and I'm glad you say that because, crap, we've been talking about this. As far as we feel personally, we've kind of broke down a series of events that led us to believe that the Neo is already in production to a certain extent. So we thought, Brad, that you'd made a comment a second ago saying that Sony may not talk about it in 2016, but we have some kind of documentation or something we've seen rumored that Tokyo Game Show is going to be the release or the big Neo discussion.
Oh, that certainly could be. When I say 20, sorry, I meant E3 2016.
Okay.
I mean next week.
Understood. I thought maybe, see, when you said 2016, I said, well, wait a minute, this is a legitimate concern. I agree with you to a certain extent. If we don't see Neo at Tokyo Game Show, I'm really thinking that there's a possibility that they are maybe going back to the drawing board based on Microsoft rumors. It wouldn't put it past Sony. I just think Sony's that type of. Let's remember something. They have not enlightened us with their software package this generation. Okay, I mean, Street Fighter V is just awful. They're selling it for $15 already. Uncharted 4 did well. I don't think it did as well as Sony thought it would. Sony rants and raves about sales. It took them a long time to come out with it, and that's their flagship, and it didn't even come close to what Halo 5 was able to do. So my point being is that I think that their whole prowess this entire generation, Brad, has been based on power. So if Microsoft's going to start, knocking punches in the stomach and taking the wind out of Sony in power, we already know Phil Spencer has the okay to start doing his own IPs. He's resurrected a lot of their own software companies internal to Microsoft. They've got the games thing on lock. If they get the hardware on lock, it's a hell of a deal for Microsoft. That concerns Sony. I don't think they can lose the power race.
Yeah, well, they can't lose a lot because you got to think about it. Microsoft has a very powerful ecosystem in place. They have the one thing that Sony can never get, the desktop PC. No matter how much they try, they cannot take Windows away from Microsoft. Right. So they have to always be winning on something. And I think, to what you're pointing out, I think it's the power. That's what they always kind of bet on, is that, okay, we'll outpower them to make sure that we at least have that stat. But it's going to get real finicky here especially if Microsoft, was it Phil Spencer who started talking about saying, hey, we need to break the traditional console sales cycle of a new device every 7 years?
Right where I was thinking.
Yeah. So Microsoft is in a position to be able to capitalize upon that. They already have decades of experience of updating software and pushing out hardware and more importantly, dealing with multiple versions of hardware out in the marketplace. They know how to deal with those problems at scale. Sony's not so much.
Okay.
And would you also say, Brad, that there would be an advantage because, like I was explaining to you when we were off air, that Sony's Neo, developers basically have to make two different games, which some developers have already kind of complained about this. Whereas UWP would maybe allow Microsoft to have an advantage because developers would probably look to them first and foremost as a lead platform because you could do PC and Xbox and all their platforms with just one kind of game. You know what I mean? You just have to have that one code. I mean, would you say that was a big advantage?
Oh, it's colossal. I mean, think of it from this perspective. When Microsoft and Sony go pitch developers potentially for exclusives, ignoring the fact that whoever writes the check sometimes gets it, but think about it this way: if Microsoft walks into EA and says, we want a certain game, we have let's just say 10 million Xbox Ones. And then Sony comes in a week later and says, you know what? We have 19 PlayStation 4s. Well, if they build it as a UWP, Microsoft can then say, look, we have 10 million Xbox Ones. We also have 28 million PC gamers. You write it once, it's going to run everywhere. Yeah. It's going to run, and you're going to get two demographics out of one code base. That's essentially reducing a game that would come out on PC, Xbox, and PS4 by a third.
So Microsoft's had this plan in place for a very long time, and I think that's why they've kind of been in this no sweat it kind of situation, because they know what's coming down the road. And let's also call a spade, right? In 2013, when everybody was booing and hissing DRM, now people are ranting, raving, and clapping their hands. They're just not saying the terms DRM. You know what I mean? Microsoft is seeing the future and what's coming down the pipe. And this thing that we're talking about with UWP, this Universal Windows Platform, really, really puts Microsoft in the driver's seat. And you know, Brad or Crap or anyone on the panel, I don't want to just keep going to Brad. I mean, but Brad, can you explain basically to the people who don't know what the Universal Windows Platform will do? Just using a simple example, right? I'm going to use one and tell me if I have any legs with this. They showed many, many months ago, I want to say it was almost a year and a half ago, on how quickly they could move a game like Forza 5 back and forth between, they ported it quickly to PC. They did it in 20 minutes. I know that wasn't necessarily being pitched as the Universal Windows Platform, but is there something like that you can give an example to the audience to where something could be done very easily between the mobile, console, and PC platforms?
So here's the best way to describe UWP. What it allows you to do is to build the back end of an application once, and then all you have to do is build the visual elements for the different screen sizes. So you build it, and if you want to run on desktop, you create just the desktop UI, none of the back-end changes. And if you want to move it to a phone, then you just have to scale down the UI. And there's even some automated scaling, so Microsoft gives you a bone there. But what's even more interesting is you don't need to worry about scaling different screen sizes when you go from the Xbox to the desktop. It's roughly, most people are still gaming in 1080p right now. And that's what most TVs are. So there's not even that issue. The issue right now is that the Xbox One doesn't run UWP apps natively. It will start to here once with the anniversary update, but it's not powerful enough to run like, I don't know, Overwatch, for example, natively as a UWP.
I see.
But Scorpio, I would bet it could.
Okay. Now, let's talk Scorpio for a second. What's your there's different things on the internet as far as what Scorpio. Some people thought Scorpio was going to be the Slim. Some people thought that Scorpio was going to be the Generation 9, the next generation that's coming out. What is your interpretation of what you've heard from your people and your resources on what Scorpio is? And Brad, by no means are we holding this to. It's all speculation.
Yeah. No, I get you.
I want to put that out there. It's nothing's being held to you. But what do you know about Scorpio to kind of clear the air a little bit from all the rumors of games of telephone going on Twitter?
So we know that Scorpio is looking to be able to power a VR device, and Microsoft has been talking to Oculus about this. So we know that it has enough power to do a VR experience. And if it has enough power to do a VR experience, we already know that it has a new generation's graphics chip in it. Okay. So that is really the basics that I'm confident in saying. Now, anything else that they're going to do with it, I'm not quite sure yet, but I'm trying to poke the right people to say, hey, are you guys going to the full UWP app wrap? Because it seems to make the most sense. And don't get me wrong, that's not going to kill the Xbox console. I think Microsoft's still going to build consoles, but it's just going to open up. I mean, imagine this scenario. This gets a little crazy, but it's not outside of the realm of possibility. What if there was an Xbox built by Dell or HP that basically they build it to a certain spec, it gets certified by the Xbox team as being able to run Xbox games because they're really just UWP apps, and then you can go get your Xbox from somebody else.
Hey, Brad, I heard something like that, right? Like, I know, I had heard that maybe Microsoft would, like, license out something like that to where enthusiasts could get Xboxes built to, what, you know, if they're really concerned about, like, you know, playing in a 4K or 8K down the road, that could be something that they could do, but Microsoft would still probably make a base box every 4 to 5 years. Yeah,
I mean, it's just a reference design box. It's just like, it's like, think video cards, and we know Phil Spencer's big into video gaming. I mean, think NVIDIA just put out the 1070 and the 1080 reference card, and then how many different variations of that same card do we see? And apply that to the Xbox model. I think it would work.
Yeah.
So, Brad, let me ask: are you thinking something like, kind of like what Steam tried to do, except with the Xbox OS?
Yeah, I could see that. I've already heard from sources internally that they are looking to bring the Xbox user interface to the PC. Now, they haven't decided one way or another, but it would make perfect sense if you could just, well, and once it's running Windows 10, it really makes it easy that you can just take that user interface and just plop it into any Windows 10. any Windows machine for that matter. It's just an app at that point.
What's the benefit? I'm seeing everything as far as Windows 10 and PC getting the Xbox interface. I think that's outstanding branding. But I'm confused on what is Dell making, and this is all hypothetical, people, so anyone listening to the audience, we're just speaking hypothetically. If Dell makes a box and it's certified by Microsoft, what is it I'm getting as a consumer versus buying the actual bread and butter Xbox from Microsoft? Why wouldn't I want to go to the source? Why would I want the Dell version or the HP version?
Well, it's the same reason, I have a 980 Ti. It's like, why didn't I buy the NVIDIA version? Because there's extra RAM, there's an extra port on the back, and it's a little bit cooler, It's a little bit quieter. Like, I don't think you're gonna get like a PS4 and an Xbox, like they're just gonna add extra features to make it just a little bit better and make it stand out.
See, my reference that I always use as an example, and I don't know if you're going to get a Moochism here, Brett. I apologize in advance. But basically, I always recommend to people, if you're ever going to buy a car, make sure that you get your windows tinted factory so you actually get the tinted glass. Don't go see a version of a Tint King in your neighborhood because that just peels off, okay? Right. What I'm saying is if Microsoft is making a box and it happens to have maybe one port less or something less, but HP's making it, me as a consumer, I still prefer to go to the actual, the bread and butter winner here in the case of Microsoft making their own box. Maybe that, and this is maybe the reason that why Steam boxes didn't pick up Steam. Bad pun. But I mean, it's just because I think people were kind of like, who's stamping the warranty on the box here? A bit of a Tommy Boy analogy. Who's stamping the warranty here? Because I've got, I've got Steam telling me they're gonna, take care of me on the back end as far as software. But I'm buying this box, and basically all I'm getting is my 30-day warranty. I guess that's what I'm saying. So I see Microsoft, I see Mike Ibarra talking more and more about how the Xbox user interface is going to start to gain ground on the PC, which I think is genius. It absolutely is. And you're seeing other things now. Mike Ibarra took a snapshot and sent it out yesterday of games that are not even Xbox-associated games. He had, he had League of Legends and everything else up on his Xbox app, which was fantastic. It showed everything he's playing. Steam internally. It could have been, as simple as like Qbert on his local PC. Everything was showing up. I thought that was really, really great. But I mean, I don't know if necessarily this. I think the Steam box thing died just because people don't. I think that confuses the general public.
Well, you got to think about who's using Steam too.
Yeah, the problem with the Steam boxes was that it used Linux on the back end. And with the Windows one, you can actually just build your own Xbox then, load up Windows 10, and then with the Xbox controller, just press the Xbox button on the controller and the Xbox, like big picture mode on Steam. Just it comes up, and then you have like a media center with your PC, one that you build yourself. And
guys,
I think that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that would be better than Steambox because Steam OS it doesn't have all the games and all of that. So I think Microsoft is in a better position to bring out something like that.
Yeah, and it was funny. I watch Brad. I don't know if you watch it. I mentioned it on this show a lot. Red Gaming Tech, a gentleman by the name of Paul. I don't remember his last name escapes me, but I believe he's from the UK. And he said, the one thing that Microsoft has as a weapon, and it was just nice to hear it as a compliment for once, but they said Windows 10 is a major, that's something that they have over Steam's OS. So that's definitely something stronger. Now, you did mention something, and this is going to upset the panel, but a lot of people want to talk about it. I don't want to harp on it, and I really don't want to make it the essence of the show. But you had said something about when, there's certain amounts of the UWP that will become active once anniversary is fully launched and we step away from this kernel of Windows 10 we have. Is there anything, have you heard the speculation that the current Xbox and the Slim as they stand would get any kind of advantage, even if it's just 4K streaming, when anniversary is launched, that the Xbox has anything in it that we don't know about? That doesn't mean it has a hidden chip, but does anything actually come about from anniversary besides a couple of these small nuances?
So for the existing Xbox, I don't quite know. I mean, we'll get the Windows Store, which will unlock basically all the apps. Any Windows 10 app will then be able to run on your Xbox, which is kind of a big deal for some people. because then they can get a lot more media content. Remember, the Xbox One has a store, but it's not all that great.
Right.
And so we'll finally get the Windows Store, which is slightly better than not that great. But we'll get there, and I think that's going to be a big feature for some people. They just put Cortana out there, but it's garbage currently. I'm really surprised they put it out in this state. If you haven't used it yet, it's not great.
Yeah, I've heard that from a number of people. What is it that it's not doing? Is it just not picking up the voice commands?
The dictation's not great. The user interface isn't great. I mean, it's to be completely blunt, I'm not really sold too much on Cortana, and not just Cortana, but like Siri. Google Now is a little bit better, but like I use Cortana 99.9% of the time. Will say set an alarm for 10 minutes or send a reminder tomorrow. That's
Right.
it. Like
Right.
there's not a whole lot else it does. So on the Xbox, what I wanted it to do would be like, hey Cortana, record that clip, but that doesn't work. So.
But that should be coming down the pipe, correct?
It should be, yes. Yeah, this is iteration 1, so we're getting there.
I mean, my biggest beef with the Cortana thing is I think that we just all got done with the whole and taught ourselves the Xbox and then say a command. The Hey Cortana, I'm watching a lot of people make videos about it, and it seems confusing. Like you're confusing the system with the Hey Cortana.
Mooch,
Go ahead.
When it comes to Cortana, I think right now, you know, like Brad said, it's very raw. Like when you go to just talk to her regularly, like you can ask her to tell you a joke or something like that. For some reason, you know, because like it's so raw, it brings you to like the My Games and Apps, and that's where she snaps in. So I do think with the updates over time, it will smooth it out. I wouldn't say like she's absolute like garbage. It does take a lot of working with her and stuff like that. It's just then you know, I'm used to her with my phone as well. I actually use her a lot with the Windows 10 preview, and there's sometimes she's a little iffy, but for the most part, she's responded pretty well to me so far.
Well, I mean, the idea they have in the assistant part of what they're trying to push is fine, but in Xbox, I know you've been actually very positive on it, but a lot of people aren't, and I think that. Is this something that we can assume that maybe we'll see come maybe later in the year, and the preview program may hold on to it for quite some time before it gets released for full usage?
Well, what I've seen from Microsoft, just being in the various preview programs and stuff like that, is they push stuff out early, and then they get their feedback. So I don't think they're in a rush to basically release it out to everybody and stuff like that. I think they had it working internally. You know, they put it out there, and now they want to see what happens when it's quote unquote out in the wild, and they want to get feedback. So I try to tell my subscribers, anybody who will listen to me, that if you are in the preview, definitely give them feedback. Hit your preview dashboard, let them know any type of bugs, anything like that, just so it could be that much smoother, that much quicker when it releases.
And I don't have it currently. I'm hoping to get it possibly by this weekend. But Brad made a point in a lot of people's videos. I do have to say I was a little surprised. That I didn't expect Cortana to come out and wow us more than what we had. But the same thing happened with Cortana that happened with basically the 360 into the Xbox One, where a lot of the voice commands aren't even there right now. Right. And that's let people down. People said, okay, I thought we were going to take what we had and move forward. And I think if you speak to anybody from Microsoft, they'll say, yes, you're going to get that. But why release this version of Cortana out so early? A lot of people, Brad, were expecting that anniversary launching would be, I think Microsoft's on record saying sometime in July. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe
it's late July. I'm targeted for about July 29th.
Then there's no way that, as it stands currently, you would not, if you were working right now, Brad, for Microsoft, you would not give a thumbs up and approve the release of Cortana at this point.
Right. So, now, granted, a lot of it is on the back end, though, so just kind of remember that it's not so much in the Xbox, it's what they do on the back end, so hopefully it'll fix relatively quickly.
Hey, Brad, I have a question. Since you know a lot about this stuff, there's people who go around claiming they're industry insiders, right?
Good.
And they claim that the Xbox One, the current one that we have, has this hidden switch that'll be clicked with this update, and it's going to all of a sudden be over 5 teraflops and be able to play VR. What's your thoughts on this, like as far as the current Xbox One that we have now?
So my general consensus is if somebody considers themselves an industry insider and they put it on their blog or whatever, they're not. Like people, you don't hear people going around saying, "Hey, I'm a celebrity." Like they don't do that. Like it's if you have to claim you're an insider, you're really not. Like let your work speak for itself type scenario. And so I think that's complete garbage.
So Brad has debunked that right there, everybody.
Well,
You're not
like it's like I've been in arguments with people because I get inside information. Well, I wouldn't say I'm an insider either. I don't brag about it, but people go, "Hey, you're an outlet for Xbox. I got these documents. Do you want them?" And I'm like, "Sure." And then I pass them along. You know what I mean? But it's not like on a blog or anything like that. But when people just come to me and they're like, "Just wait until till they flip that switch at E3, and the whole reason Sony made Neo was because they were afraid of the Xbox One that we have now because it's going to play Oculus and do all kinds of stuff." And I'm like, we already know what's in the box, though. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing really secret.
The big red button that Gabe All used to have? It's going to be moved over to Phil Spencer, and he's going to press that big red button.
I love Dreyer's. It's so dry.
Dreyer's humor is awesome. No, I mean, Brad, this has been something that's been going back and forth. A lot of people say that and Crap really put it out there properly. He said that people speculate that let's go back to the numbers we know. The Xbox One that we have in our homes right now was estimated at a research and development output of $3 billion. And people say, okay, what the heck was $3 billion? We know that Sony's was under a $500,000. Or $500 million, excuse me. And my point being is those are all off-the-shelf parts mainly. What did Microsoft do? So a lot of people start to speculate and they say once anniversary, because the Xbox One was built for Windows 10. I think we can all agree on that. Then they had the 180, and they had to do all this other stuff in coding, and it put them behind, and Windows 10 wasn't fully ready last year. So a lot of people feel that when Windows 10 becomes fully active, or as active as they want in the Xbox One, that it will unleash more raw power out of the chipsets that are currently in the box. A lot of people have said that if anybody could do it, it would be Microsoft.
Here's my thought on that. There's a lot of power in these boxes. Don't get me wrong. Like there is, and I don't know. I'd never heard the $3 billion number, but whatever. Microsoft spends a lot of money on R&D, and it's very hard to track. Actually, when you first said $3 billion, I was like, you know what? I wonder if they're lumping in some HoloLens R&D into that because I believe that started out in the Xbox org. Because remember, the guy who's running it actually used to run Kinect.
Correct. Yep.
So I'm wondering if there's some crossover there. But what they can do is Microsoft is very good at optimizing. So they have these chips, and yeah, they may not be at their max capacity, but I don't think it's going to be some like big red D-Day that they're going to press this button and all of a sudden my Xbox One is a 4K gaming machine. What advantage would they have of waiting until now to do that?
And that's Craps. That's been
Thank you.
Why would you wait? Why would you wait so long? The answer that people only come back to him with is the system was built and ready for Windows 10. What they have activated can't run without whatever Windows 10 kind of pushes through the box.
No, I'm pretty confident this thing was not built for Windows 10 because remember it originally shipped without a Windows 10 OS, and so then they had to go back and kind of retool it so that it could run it. To be honest, like my first thought when they said they were putting Windows 10 on here, I was actually more concerned we were going to see less performance at first.
I see. I know where you're coming from.
Just because they designed it and they said, you know what, we're going to build this OS-specific operating system for the Xbox. And then the mandate came down from when Nadella took over. He said, nope, that thing's going to run Windows 10.
Right.
And so you can't... yeah, they're shoehorning it in there. Now, they've done a good job, don't get me wrong, but remember, there was a pretty significant lag in updates like year after the Xbox One came out. They said, hey, we're going to put Windows 10 on this, and then there were no updates. Like, it took them a decent amount of time to actually port this over.
Well, I think a lot of it from what they're saying, the delay was because almost every line of code had some sort of DRM written into it. Is that true? Maybe they had to go back and rewrite.
Oh, wow.
That would not surprise me. That's a little bit beyond what I know, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, they're so worried about these things being hacked.
Right, right. That's true. I mean, listen, I say to people all the time, the reason that I think, Brad, when you did your show 3-4 weeks ago, and all the great comments you've been getting, your show's been booming, which it should be. I think that speculation is part of what makes, especially E3 week, right? I mean, this is like Shark Week for us. This is our big thing. It's fun to speculate, but we don't want to jump off the deep end and sound crazy. That's why I've tried to keep this 50-50, because these people that are the quote-unquote insiders, they keep continuing to show. Like just yesterday, for example, I was told that AMD is prepared and ready to go on stage with Phil Spencer to talk about what anniversary mixed with what's in their box is going to bring to the current console. And I mean, of course, AMD hasn't made any kind of announcement about that. No, there's no truth to it, but
Phil also said like a while back, like a year ago, that with the optimization with the Xbox One going forward, like what you saw with the Xbox 360, the games that it launched with against the games that launched with it at the end of its life cycle. Like for instance, he said Project Dark Zero against Halo 4. You would see that difference between the launch games and the final games that it launches on the platform at the end of its life cycle. That's the type of optimization that you will see, not some switch in the hardware or something. And that's what he meant.
And I mean, I think all that people really want, what they want, listen to me speaking for millions of people, but I think what a lot of people wanted, right, was I think they wanted to see 1080p 60 frames on a single-player game. I think that's really what it comes down to. And I didn't think that was a lot to ask, going into the generation where we are. 2013 wasn't that long ago. Nothing revolutionary. I mean, there's a lot happening in the chipsets department right now as we speak.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
Right? I mean, we know that, but we're also talking about these amazing feats or something that are going to propel us, 5-6 years into the future from today. I think that a lot of us, and I always like to give credit where credit's due. Crap has been saying for a long time on his channel that the Xbox One and the PS4 were a stopgap, right? I mean, this is like just a median to get, because they knew the old consoles, the last generation ran too long. They had to get something out. Both companies look like they're underprepared. Microsoft on the hardware end, and it looked like Sony got caught with their pants down on the software end. I mean, they have no games. And they're already talking about a Neo and this other stuff. So apparently, I mean, I'm sorry, but coming out with the Order 1886 and just Uncharted, really, that's just not enough. Knack didn't pull us in. So, I mean, they didn't have the software lineup.
Might get a Knack, too.
Yeah, we're all anticipating. We're really drooling.
Hey, Mooch, if I can, I just want to ask Brad something about hardware before we kind of drift off a little, further away from that. Brad, we were talking about, like, third party developing like a box and stuff like that. What I've seen in looking into stuff is more or less because Phil Spencer talked about possibly upgrading your system, right? All right, having an upgradable box. I believe that's what the Scorpio is. And so in terms of like third party developers, what would you think on the fact of them not necessarily making their own third-party Xbox, but making like that GPU extension or something like that, and having like a customized shell and truly like making your Scorpio, look the way you want it to look and have the power that you want it to have. Do you think that is a possibility?
So the thing that jumps out in my mind with that scenario is cost. Because as soon as you stop doing things in mass production that work across everything, the cost for you to buy that hardware is going to be significant. I mean, significant, put it whatever your terms, but let's say you think that piece should cost $70, $80. Well, if it's only done in limited scale, then it's going to be closer to $200, which isn't a very good value prop, because the whole idea that most people, like when my parents bought me a Nintendo 64 when I was a little shit, they said, look, we're going to buy this for you because we know that you don't have to keep buying video cards every year. Because I was a PC gamer, and very early days of PC gamers were my video card. I remember I saved up all my grass cutting money and I bought a 4 meg video card, and then the next year I bought like a 8 meg. And my parents were like, look, we'll buy you the frickin' N64, so you stop spending all your money on video cards. And that's been the reason why people buy consoles, at least to some degree, is that, hey, look, I can buy this Xbox One, and I don't have to buy another piece of hardware for 5 years if I don't want to.
Right.
So
I like your.
Think that's.
Go ahead, Rob.
I think Yeah, I think that's where the build your own Xbox with that Windows 10 system comes in, where you can just build your own system to the spec that Xbox requires,
See,
and
that's
then you
that's what
can
I agree.
customize
Because
it to your liking actually.
because think about this
But
scenario.
I have a yeah.
Think about this. If they build a game for the PC and they build it as a WP app, they're already going to put we'll just say 720, 1080p, 4K, maybe even 8K resolution artifacts into the game. Now, when it goes and plays on the Xbox, it's just going to pick the one that it can play and just use it. It's just like a PC game.
Mhm.
So if you could build your own Xbox, as long as you meet that minimum requirement, it's like, hell, this is on an Xbox certified thing, but look, it can support 4K. We'll just use that graphics setup instead of the basic.
Yeah.
Right. Now, do you think that we're going to see, because I mean, all this, I mean, I know a lot of people don't like talking hardware movies because what I do for a living, I enjoy it. Are we going to see next generation start next holiday, Brad, or do you think we're talking 2018?
That's a really, really good question. Typically, when they announce things, so we already know Sony's going to announce something. We know Microsoft is going to announce something. Typically, I mean, every time they've announced something, they've announced it in June, and it was prepared for holiday. So I don't think you're crazy to believe that.
Okay, so you're thinking holiday 2017 is definitely, it's feasible.
I think it is feasible.
But the thing is, though, I want to take it back one step and remember 2013 again. The big reveals came in February for Sony and May for Microsoft, and then of course they did their glamour show, if you will, at E3. So I mean, is waiting till E3? I think 2017 is too late for new console talk, right? We're gonna have to see something maybe end of this year. Maybe Microsoft will hold its own conference again, something on the side. I mean, I don't know.
So here's like an important thing to keep in marketing. Microsoft doesn't want to announce anything late in the year that's not available for Christmas.
Okay.
That's a really bad idea because that's when they sell a ton of everything.
Yes.
And so they all gear up. And that's why they usually have a hardware thing in October, although I don't know if they're going to have that this year. At least not for their Surface Book Pro 5, or Surface Book 2 and Pro 5 are expected to come in spring of 2017 along with the new Intel chips. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. We'll see what happens in October, but I can't imagine them saying, hey, in October, here's a new console that's not coming out this year, but go ahead and buy little Timmy that other Xbox he wants.
Right.
And you know it's only got a shelf life of 8 months now.
That was the whole point I said, too. I said it doesn't make sense to say, hey, here's our Slim, it's going to be $279 or whatever, but we're going to come out with something even better 16 months from now. You know what I mean? Like, that would kill your sales, and especially when you have games like Gears of War, and now we're seeing the leaks of Halo Wars 2, which looks phenomenal, and ReCore they're hyping up. The Forza Horizon 3 trailer leaked today. I mean, they've got some serious games this year, and you want to sell your console. So, I mean, they're doing the smart thing, in my opinion, by not showing off score. I think people know. Maybe they show a scorpion at the end or something. If you know, you know. You know what I mean? But not actually talk about it. I think that'd be the smart thing. But what are your thoughts about this possibly backfiring, Brad? Because you're kind of well aware, and like when I first started hearing about iterations and stuff, my initial thought was they're trying to do cell phones, but these aren't cell phones because we don't take our consoles everywhere. Right. People might, and with cell phones, a lot of times you have, you sign deals and stuff, so sometimes they're free to upgrade or a percentage off. They do everything cell phones do. Consoles basically play games and you can watch Netflix and stuff, but people might not look at that as something that they want to spend their money on. Do you feel like this could possibly backfire for these companies long term, or what's your thoughts on that?
Potentially. So, to be honest, what ran through my head when you were talking about that is that I envision that Microsoft is going to get away from like the super uber custom silicone, and that they're going to go to more like an Intel something or other that's much cheaper. I mean, what's the advantage? So back like 10 years ago, it made a lot of sense to pay AMD and Intel to build you a very custom chip that would do one specific thing because the GPU and CPU power back then didn't really exist, right? It was a whole different world of, is it really making sense now to go pay AMD or Intel, let's just say $500 million to come up with a super custom chip that's going to sit in a device for 5 years, or they can just go grab the latest i7, make a few modifications to it, and be just fine.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's what I think Phil Spencer was trying to hit at, is that the era of building your own, like what Sony had the Cell, was that with the Cell
Yeah,
processor for the
Cell processor.
PS3?
PS3.
It was a total flop, right? And they dumped tons and tons and tons of money in that. Then they tried to put that thing in TVs. I don't remember for that. They used to have a campaign that says, "Come buy a Sony TV. It's got a Cell processor in it," because the thing was garbage.
Yeah.
And so what did they do with PS4? They went much more modest and basically just kind of modified existing designs, unlike Microsoft, who kind of went all custom. And so that's where I think they're going to go, is more off-the-shelf components. And Microsoft needs to do what it does best. It builds good software, for the most part. And that's where they should try to win, is on the software side, instead of this crazy expenditure for silicone.
Okay.
Interesting.
I have a
go ahead,
quick
Dre.
thing with the media boxes, right? So something that's really frustrating with Microsoft, especially with Microsoft, is that they have all this huge market share with Windows and Xbox and everything, but they don't make music and TV and Groove available everywhere in the world. And it's quite annoying, because when you see that Apple and Google, for instance, in South Africa, has their stores wide open with music and TV and all of that, but Microsoft just doesn't do that. I don't get why they
It's a licensing thing, and they're too cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, well, think about it. All a music app is it's just an aggregator of licensing of licensed material. Same with video. And so if they want to make it available there, all they have to do is just go pay the company, or the music company, however much it costs to license in that country, and they just don't want to do it.
Hey,
It's
Brad.
a big lost opportunity, basically.
Do you have any new information that you want to get out there before E3 hits? Like maybe something you haven't shared yet?
Stole my exact thought, crap.
I think nothing too crazy juicy, because Kotaku leaked the documents that I had as well, with no attribution. It was pretty cool of them.
Hey, guess what? Gawker just filed for bankruptcy, so
yeah, no, I saw that.
so they're the parent company, so that might end up not working out too well for Kotaku anyway. So
no,
IGM is trying to buy them now.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna sit back and relax. One thing that I reminded me of, and when you talked about analysts last year. So last February, I said, hey, Microsoft's building an Xbox Elite controller. Mm-hmm. And actually, I think I said it on Windows Weekly, and I wrote up something on Neowin about it. And I had, and this is why I don't like these people, I had an industry insider write me an email and said I was wrong. And you can sure as shit, as the minute it was announced, I screen capped it, and actually I just wrote "fuck you" and sent it back to him. Good for you. Because the guy kept trying to tell me, he was telling me like all bad information. So every time E3 comes around, all I think about is that guy just telling me that I was wrong. I'm just really, the biggest thing I'm going to be watching at E3 is if these media streamers do materialize. Because if you jump way back 18 months or so, well, no, it was probably 24 months or so, Microsoft wanted to build something for the living room. And you'll see where this is going here. The problem is back then they had to make a choice. Does it run on Intel or does it run on an ARM chip? And ultimately they started building out this hardware on an ARM chip.
Yep.
And Windows RT collapsed. It collapsed spectacularly. And so they had this media box that ran Windows RT, and they had no apps, and they canceled the project. And so what I believe is that they have resignated that project, and now it doesn't matter if it's running an Intel or ARM chip, because it can run the UWP, because fortunately they were smart enough and they allowed it to, it's essentially, I'm going to speak above my head here, I think it's virtualized above the silicone layer, so if it's Intel, screw it, it can run UWP apps. If it's an ARM chip like the phones, it can run UWP apps, so now they're not constrained by that. And so that's what I'm going to be watching to see, is if this comes out, and if not, when, because we all know it's coming. It's just a matter of when it's going to show up.
Interesting. How about any software? I know you kind of dabble in it, Brad, but I don't know if it's your forte or not. If it's not, let us know, or if you heard something. Can we expect any new IPs? Have you heard anything? I mean, how much of this show is going to be hardware? We got 90 minutes, right? And if these other two things do come to fruition, as far as the stick and the TV box, as I call it, then there's the Slim on top of that. I mean, are you hearing about anything in the software category?
That's not my strong point, to be honest. I just hope that we don't get a 10-minute closer that's just straight Call of Duty playing, like they did a couple of years ago. It was like the end of the show was just 10 minutes of it. It was like, really?
At least Sony's got the Call of Duty thing now, so don't watch their show.
But I mean, Dreyer made a point a while ago, and I just want to kind of bounce back and forth here on the speculation chart. When you first looked at the games that came out on 360 to what we ended with, and Halo 4 is a great example because the game's gorgeous. Mm-hmm. And the same thing now, Rod and Ferguson's come out. I don't want to say Phil. I know Rod has. I know a few others in the tech world have said that Gears of War 4 is really going to push the Xbox One to its limits on a graphical capability. Have you seen any builds of it? Have you talked to anyone who's on the software and that have seen it? Are we in for a treat on Gears of War? Have you heard anything about that, Brad?
No, not so much. It's I always joke whenever a vendor says we're pushing it to the limits.
Right.
It reminds me of every time Apple does a keynote and they say this is our best lineup ever. Like, are they really going to come out there and say, you know what? 2 years ago that was actually our best lineup. When I hear that, speaking to Gears of War 4, they're going to push it to the limit of what they know today. Now next year they're going to have more insight about how far they can actually push this thing, and they'll be able to push it a little bit further. But unfortunately, I played the crap out of the first Gears of War. God, I hope Gears of War 4 is just as good as the original. I think
the beta was phenomenal.
Yeah. I wasn't a big fan of Gears of War 3. 2 was okay, but I played the crap out of the first one.
Now, do you think, getting back to your specialty then, Brad, is hardware. I mean, a lot of people, and this is funny, right? You have a bunch of non-technical people talking teraflops. It's really great. It's the insiders are everywhere, and now we've got Twitter people who are insiders. But have you heard anything, and this is, again, back to the rumor mill, what is Scorpio projected? There's people saying and I got to point crap out. He broke this to me. He said that the initial was that it would be the Scorpio would be somewhere around 6 teraflops, but they said that they know that Sony is very, very notorious for pulling a last-minute switch. In that event, they could always up it to 8. And then there's other people, like it wasn't Kotaku, but there was that person over in Italy that broke that Scorpio will be pushing upwards of 10. At the end of next year. Have you heard anything as far as that in the hardware sense?
So I've heard that it's closer to that 6 to 7. That's what I was told. Or I should say that's the information that was passed to me. But that's so hard and so subjective. I mean, you're essentially running a benchmark. I mean, it's in the 1970s we had cars that had more horsepower than the Italians, but the Italians kicked our ass because they could do the turns better, right? So you got to remember that Microsoft's bread and butter is software, and they're better at delivering those types of experiences than they are just putting a whole bunch of muscle under the hood.
Yeah.
And that's true, but I do think, and crap, I'm going to get right back to you, but if we are going to go with the rationale we spoke up 5 minutes ago, Microsoft's no longer going to dabble in the silicon world. It'll be something that they can just pull off the shelf. We know technology's moving that quick, right, in the Polaris world, etc. So, I mean, they could dabble in let me rephrase it. Could they, Brad, financially get a box out next year? Is this even feasible? That's 8 to 10 T-flops, and it's somewhere around $4 to $5.99.
See, that's to answer the first part. Could they? Yes. Could they sell it for that price? Yes. Would they lose a lot of money on it?
Yeah.
Very possible. What is always hard to understand in these hardware cycles is what's Microsoft's. How are they going to leverage their royalty for being able to build on this stuff and use it there? That's always the thing that we don't ever get a good, clear picture on, because I think we're all relatively familiar with the first couple of years the hardware's out, you're losing money on it. And you're trying to make money up from like the Call of Duties that sell $1 billion, and then you get a nice fat royalty check from that.
That's my point, Brad, and I want to take that a step further. I've been saying this since 2013 on every podcast I've showed up on. Microsoft's notorious for making. Listen, I've said it all the time. Software is like the booze in the restaurant business. Okay, just because you buy the filet mignon, they're more interested, Brad, if you get 3 Goose Martinis,
right? Because
they make more money. So what I'm saying is, lose $150 on the box. put the goods in it, and then don't give one single IP away for free. Look at this generation, Brad. We've had console bundle after console bundle from Xbox giving away. They made this huge deal with Crystal Dynamics for Rise of the Tomb Raider, giving it away. Halo 5, giving it away. These are millions and hundreds of millions of dollars that went into the productions of these games, and they're giving them away to get the box in the living room. How about if the box is so damn good? It's like you said, no more insiders. How about if the box speaks for itself with power? They put a $4.99, slap that thing on there. This thing's 8 T-flops, and then you buy every piece of software for $65 from their Microsoft store, where they reap every penny of it. You know what I'm trying to say? That's what I'm saying.
So,
don't put the software in the box anymore. Put the money into the hardware, lose it there, and let us give you the money in a different aspect.
So that model works exceptionally well for the enthusiast, and it works terribly for the soccer mom who's buying little Timmy a console.
True.
Consumers are notoriously price sensitive. Like if you go, it's why what's his name who went to J.C. Penney and tried to get away with the sales. He used to work at Apple. Their retail guy, and he went there and he said, you know what, we're going to have no more sales. We're just going to have one flat price the whole year. But you know what the problem was? People like getting coupons in the mail for 20% off.
Yes.
And even if they're paying more, they still feel like they got a good value. So it would be very hard for them to sell a more expensive box in the living room than their competitor. It doesn't matter unless it's printing gold-shitted eggs. It's very hard to sell that kind of stuff that's more expensive when little Timmy just wants to play Destiny, and his mom can pay $2.99 or they can pay $4.99.
Well, the thing is, though, the question had flipped, and I apologize, Cap, I know you want to get in here. But the question's flipped here because if the Xbox, we'll just call it the Xbox Pro that comes out at the end of the Xbox Scorpio, whatever you want to call it, if that one does happen to be much more powerful, I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. The Neo coming out at 4.4, and if this other one, if they went with my scheme I was just talking about, and they come out at 7 or 8, that's substantial. That's substantial. I know, and you're right. I'm the enthusiast. I'm in the minority here. I get that. But $100 more to charge for something like that, I wonder if. But see, then again, you don't have a Microsoft employee at every GameStop, do you? You know, so you don't have somebody pushing that. Crap. Go ahead. I've interrupted you.
Well, I was gonna say, like, Brad, do you foresee like an arms race here? Because that's a worry, obviously, for me. I'm a gamer, even though I am pro Microsoft and prefer them. I buy all of them. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to buy a new console every 3 years from across the board, you know what I mean? That could get rather pricey. Do you foresee kind of an arms race going on?
I don't know. See, the hardest thing to do is to judge what Phil Spencer's got in his mind. We all know he's a good gamer, and he kind of came into a shit scenario, and this is going to be, in my opinion, the first E3 that is really his. And he's going to have total control, and we're going to see what we'll know in a week. We will know significantly more about his vision for the Xbox brand and platform. And so I hope we don't get into an arms race because I don't want to start spending that, although I just bought an HTC Vive and I'm trying to decide if I'm going to buy an Oculus. But I don't want to get into that arms race again with consoles being like, shit, the Xbox 4 is now out.
To get back to the whole thing with the third parties building the Xboxes as well. Microsoft can get away with building one every 3 to 4 years, and then every other OEM can have an arms race if they want to. It's your choice to just stick to the Xbox or join the arms race if you want.
Well, that goes back, and Dreyer, so what you're tying it back into is these other vendors, these other OEMs coming in and making boxes that are accessible to Xbox's platform. And UI.
Yeah, if you want the HP Xbox that's twice as fast as the PlayStation 4, you can do that, or you can just go and buy the Xbox that's slightly more powerful than the PlayStation 4.
But aren't we dancing delicately? Aren't we dancing delicately on what we've all said a number of times on podcasts, and Brad said earlier on this show was the reason people get consoles is because you take the box out of the box. And then you plug it in, you put the game in or buy it digitally now, and you play the game. It's supposed to be simple.
Well, Mooch, what I see with that, like when I heard Phil Spencer talking about an upgradable system and everything like that, and Brad said about the price point being like $200 or so. Say it's first party hardware, all right? Just even leave out like the Dells and all that good stuff. It's first party hardware. $200 like every 3 years or so. And then that is your system. If you want to upgrade, you upgrade it, but I don't see like a new box coming out. In other words, the whole idea of the generations, Generation 8 and all that stuff is gone. That's what I see with like that upgradable, what I think the Scorpio is going to be. And with that, then you're only spending like that $200 price point, say, every 3 years or so, if you want to.
But are you talking about an additional box, or are you talking about like an external GPU?
I'm talking about I don't know per se, because I'm not in there with them looking at all this stuff. But what I would think is either an external GPU, or even have it modular to where you can take a section off and they manufacture that section for like $200, and it's.
I always thought that was like the dumbest thing, because people didn't. Like, I don't know, people are stupid. Like Brad was saying, Timmy's mom isn't going to know, hey, let me buy the modular add-on for this at Walmart. You know what I mean? I just see them doing. I mean, Brad, you can answer it.
No, you're right. I mean, it's what we're missing here is the software requirements. If they can build these consoles that come out, and you'll have a guarantee that your console will be able to run all Xbox games for the next 5 years. Now, granted, you might be able to run it at 720p, the latest game that comes out after 5 years, so be it, but it still works. That's what they need to establish.
Yeah, that's what I think they're going to do with the UWP. But my bad, go ahead of time.
Yeah, I want to jump in here and just lead into this. As you said before, there's some thought that Xbox could certify other companies making like third-party Xboxes. Do you think once that happens, or if it does happen, that Xbox itself would leave the hardware market as a first party and just focus on the software?
Nothing would make Microsoft happier than to do that. Because they would not have to front the cost for that hardware, which is so expensive. Like, you guys were quoting a $3 billion number. Imagine if they didn't have to spend that.
Right.
I mean,
the only thing is, though, Brad, I will say this much, okay? And I know that you guys, there's a few Apple guys here, there's a couple Windows guys, but when you pull that iPhone out of your pocket, okay, when you're the Apple customer, Apple loves that you're continuously pulling out their logo, you're holding it up in front of your face at the bus station, you're constantly advertising for them. The one thing that having an Xbox made by Microsoft in your living room, I thought, is the branding. Because Bill, I mean, this story has been stretched and pulled out of proportion a million times. But the envisionment was always to have a Windows device in everybody's living room, and the way to do that is by not only do I have a Windows device in the living room, which we all agree is not the full Windows experience, probably will be on the Scorpio, but I also have the Xbox logo, the Microsoft flagship, the flag waving. When someone sits down in the living room, they go, "Oh, you have an Xbox." You know what I mean? So if it's an HP box, it's not going to have Xbox. Maybe it'll have Xbox on it. Maybe it won't, unless Microsoft makes it a criteria. It'll just say, "Oh, you have an HP. You have a computer in your living room." You know what I mean?
Like, you know what else you'll be running?
What's Windows. That? True. You will be running Windows. That is a fact.
Microsoft will always make the enthusiast hardware, like they do with Surface and their Windows phones.
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah. They will always make an Xbox.
Surface is a huge hit.
Yeah.
They lost $1 billion.
Yeah. It did take a while to get there. It's true.
Yeah.
Here's what I was thinking, though. If they do outsource this, Mooch, I was thinking that it would help in markets where Microsoft brand itself is not very popular or frowned upon. Markets where the Xbox One doesn't sell. Maybe if it had an Alienware logo with a small Xbox logo, it would sell better. Maybe something like that too.
I mean, to me, it's partial branding, and I mean, Brad makes a point. Ultimately, when you kick any box on, as long as the Windows 10 logo pops up, maybe mission accomplished. But I mean, myself personally, it can't hurt that when you're bored and you're waiting for your airplane and you're in the airport, I like to look around. Maybe it's because it's what we all do, but I look around and I see how many MacBook Pros do I see, how many iPads do I see, how many iPhones do I see the bulk of people using this device. Because it's not about the little world we all live in. It's when you go into mass areas, okay? You go into Madison Square Garden, you're waiting in line for a drink, or you're in the airports, and you look at what the general, when a ton of people have been thrown together in one room that don't come from the same background, and what they're using, and what the general consensus is. And the one thing I notice is when you just walk in, you get invited to a dinner party, all of a sudden you see someone saying, oh, I'm going to go play Gears on my Xbox. You don't want to play Gears on your Hewlett-Packard. And I don't know if Microsoft's going to want to leave that behind. I think that's something that and I think Dreyer said it best, and Brad, you said it earlier. They don't have to leave it behind, but maybe they don't have to go as gung-ho if other people are helping them make the box. That's true.
It's just an interesting way to think about how they could adapt their business model. And the thing is we don't know what the requirements they could put on the back end that, hey, you still have to call this thing an Xbox to the OEM.
Right. That's exactly it. It depends on what the criteria is. And basically what you're saying on the software end, Brad, is the same stuff that we see currently. Anyone who watches, again, like Right Gaming Tech or these other ones that focus more on PC gaming, they'll say this is the specs that you need to have on your PC at home to play this game at high res. Mm-hmm. And that's what will happen, right? The games will come out, they'll have specs, and then you'll know whether or not the box you have at home is currently going to give you the best output. If not, you have to upgrade. If not, play the 720p version. That's basically what I think. I think that, and so Brad, that's your interpretation of what Phil meant when he said we'll have, the word's escaping me right now, but upgradable. It won't be upgradable componentry.
Yeah, I think that's one potential possibility that they are exploring to figure out ways to reduce their cost using off-the-shelf components, which is out now clearly. I mean, we all know that our gaming PCs are more powerful than the Xbox. I game in 4K on my PC. I can't do that on the Xbox. So we all know that potential is there. They need to just find the right model to make sense so that they don't abandon the console market.
Right.
So
that's important. Go ahead.
Hey, Brad, I have a question. Because a lot of people, like pretty much everyone on this panel, we do these podcasts every week, but they think that the big reason that the Xbox One is losing is based on like this perception of power and resolution. I personally think that it has to do with a lot of mistakes that Microsoft made right away. Like once Sony got that first 10 million out the market with the PS4, it was over. And even if Microsoft comes out with a beast, it could be 8 teraflops, but as long as it's still called an Xbox One, or as long as the PlayStation 4 just does iterations, people will just, in my opinion, just upgrade with what they have, which is a PlayStation 4, and Xbox really needs to kind of push to the next generation. I mean, what is your thoughts on that? I mean, Microsoft shoots themselves in the foot a lot. I think the Xbox One name is kind of sullied no matter how powerful it is.
Yeah, so I agree with just about everything you said. I mean, I agree that it should. A lot of us were hoping it was just going to be called the Xbox. I would have been much happier with that name. I mean, Microsoft screwed themselves on 3 fronts. They gave it a bad name. They came out and pitched it as a media companion. And it also does gaming. I mean, we have all seen the TV video.
Yeah.
And then the price.
Yeah.
And those 3 things doomed the console before it even started. And I don't think Microsoft is losing this because of the power, the raw power. They're losing this because their messaging was so screwed up. They had a higher MSRP, and they had a funny name that didn't really make sense after the Xbox. You went Xbox 360, we're back to Xbox One. Just call it freaking Xbox and be done.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I agree.
I think the branding is here. So, Brad, before we go, a lot of people want to know a little bit more about you. So what kind of gamer are you, actually? What games are you currently playing, or anticipating playing? We know Recore, Gears, we know all these big names. Which ones are you looking forward to the best and most to show at E3?
Soda Drinker Pro.
So, I game across a bunch of different things. So I just got an HTC Vive, which is a lot of fun, but to be honest, there's not a lot of great games for it. It's more of that like experience type stuff that's really cool, like go fly a plane around, go play in space and blow up planets and whatnot. But on my PC, I actually like to play Ashes of Singularity. I used to play Command & Conquer Red Alert 2 specifically for like hundreds and thousands of hours. So I was looking for just like a cheap little RTS game that I can play, so I play that quite a bit on the PC. And then on my console, 2 games that I'm playing right now, I've been playing Overwatch like crazy, and I also really enjoy Smite.
I love Smite too. I play it on Xbox One all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't a big fan of that. I just like originally I'm not a big MOBA guy.
Nor am
but
I. This is my first MOBA.
The arena stuff is just a lot of fun to me. Like I love the competitiveness of it. It's really fun. But Brad, just real quick, since you game on both PC and console, I mean, what would you say to people that say Microsoft is foolish to put all their Xbox exclusives on PC as well, that there's no reason to own an Xbox One? I mean, what would you say to people that would bring that up as an argument?
Here's the thing. Microsoft wins either way. That's the thing. If you're gaming on Windows and they're using those exclusives, then you've already bought a PC, you've already bought it through the Windows Store. So they've already made their money. If you do it on the console, it's the same thing. They've already won. Microsoft is starting to think of, and this is what I was talking about at the very beginning of the show, they're not thinking of their gaming platforms as being different anymore. It's just one gaming ecosystem that they want to package up and sell to developers. Right. And so by doing that cross-play or that cross-buy, which I really am a big fan of, it's why buy a console? You know what? Because you get a great controller. It's in the living room. And you may not have a gaming PC. If you have a high-end gaming PC, sure, there's less incentive to buy a console if you're always on the bleeding edge of a gaming, the latest NVIDIA or AMD gaming card. So I think it's when people make that argument, I think they're thinking too linearly about it because they just assume that everyone has a high-end gaming PC, which the vast majority of people don't.
Yeah. I heard only 17 million are like Oculus ready as far as gaming PCs, which is really kind of low.
It's nothing. Well, put it this way: when I bought my 980 Ti, I paid $625 for that thing. Mm-hmm. And if you're a parent or anybody else, it's like, okay, I could buy that, or I could buy a console and 3 games.
Yeah. Right. Just real quick, Brad, like since you're into VR a little bit, do you think Microsoft how can they show off VR? Because it's rumored that people are making VR experiences for Xbox. How can they show that off without talking about Scorpio? Because we know the one that we have now isn't.
That's easy. That's Windows holographic. They just announced that is now not open source, but anybody can use it. They actually demoed it with an HTC Vive. So what I think they're going to do in this VR space, because I don't think they're going to build a true VR headset, because they have HoloLens, and if you haven't used HoloLens, it's great. And it's the future, but the problem is it's a little too far out into the future, and so AR is going to live, or VR is going to kind of live in that gap until we get fully to AR. But what I think we're going to see is that they pair up so you can just come and take your Oculus and just plug it in.
And that's going to work on Xbox One, you think?
Oh no, it's Scorpio.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think the Xbox One's nearly powerful enough to power.
Okay, but do you think they're going to show that stuff up on stage, or it's just going to be?
I don't know. I don't know what they're going to show on stage if they're going to bring that far out. I could see them showing off Windows holographic and some gaming, but I don't foresee them showing off Xbox gaming on a VR headset.
What is it?
Unless they bring out an additional box that you have to plug into the Xbox One, and then you have a system that looks like those 90s hi-fi systems.
Yeah.
Man. This is what I want, a Genesis with a 32X and a Sega CD.
Hey, my brother had those. That was fun, man. Don't.
Terrible.
Now, Brad, we're going back. I like this. We're going software, hardware. My software question to you is, I currently, and I've got to add you if I don't already have you on Xbox Live. You're gonna have to take me through and teach me what in the world am I missing on Overwatch, because I can't seem to get. I think I'm decent at it. I just can't get into it, and my problem with Overwatch on the top is just that the characters. There's 21 of them. But I find myself only truly enjoying the powers, if you will, or the special traits of about 4 or 5 of them. So the 21 is irrelevant to me, and then the others, the game modes. I mean,
there's not enough variation. I agree. So here's what I like about Overwatch is that I can pick it up and play for 15 minutes, get 3 different games in, and then put it down, and I'm done.
I'll buy that for $1. You got me sold there. I can't even argue with you. I don't even have a Mooch, but you're wrong there.
I think you can compare that to Titanfall. It was basically the same experience. You just pick it up, play a few matches, and then put it down.
Which is good. Go ahead.
When you contrast that to Smite, like a Smite game can take an hour. So if you really get into those battles. So like bouncing between the two, it's like if I got enough time, yeah, I'm gonna go play Smite. But like I just wrote a post for Throt or put something up on Petri, and I want to kill 15 minutes. I'm just gonna go play a couple rounds of Overwatch. And don't get me wrong, there's people who will master it and be all the ins and outs. But you don't have to. It's not like a Call of Duty game where you have to know every single line of sight because it's not a kill death based game. It's an objective game. So you can just kind of kick up, go play, have fun, and then put it down.
Okay, so how about most anticipated for E3? You know the lineup as well as we do. What are you looking forward to the most?
I hate to say this next thing. So it's Call of Duty, but it's not even the current Call of Duty.
You're in good company, Brad. Here comes crap.
Yeah, it's the the retro pack or whatever they're calling it.
The Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, Call of Duty 4.
I think Crap Gamer even talked me into it. I was anti it, but I can't see. And I can't believe this. We went from $60 a couple of years ago, all complaining about Call of Duty. Now we're all ready to throw $100 out.
Mine's already done. I
haven't paid for it yet. I'm holding out.
Mine's a done deal.
Crap! Give Brad your sales pitch. It was a decent pitch for the $100.
Okay, well, this is the thing, right? Because usually you pay $60 just for the new Call of Duty. They're saying pay $80, and then you get the Call of Duty 4 with it, which is good. But then pay another $20 on top of that, and you get all the map packs for Infinite Warfare, and that's like a $20 season pass, which is unheard of for Call of Duty. Those are usually $50. So like $100 for all that. Like to me, that was well worth it. You know what I mean? Because
I think there's also going to be some Call of Duty 4 maps that come in the map packs, correct?
They could. I mean, they could very well.
I got to look into it more. So, like honestly, I would see myself paying for Infinity and never touching it.
Right.
Because I didn't buy the last one after playing the beta. I stopped buying them when they introduced the jetpacks. Like that was in Titanfall, and I didn't like it in Call of Duty. I just wanted that damn simple simple shooter, which is what that game has moved so far away from. That's why I love Modern Warfare 4 when you have, what was it, you had 3 perks and you could stack them, and that was it.
Yep. And then there was 3 kill streaks. It was like 3, 5, and 7 for everybody.
Yep, and that was it. It was
simple.
Yep, and it was gun gameplay based on some skill and not these random ass attacks and everything, and it got so complicated, and that's when I stopped playing. And actually I started playing Titanfall really heavily because even though it was a little bit more complex, it wasn't as crazy.
It plays much better at Titanfall does than the Call of Duties that tried to copy that.
Yeah.
So I think that people finally are starting to get through to Activision because this is like the 4th futuristic Call of Duty game in a row, and I think now they're finally starting to get the hint that people kind of want boots on the ground, just go back to like the modern type setting. I mean, you have 3 developers. Why not have one of them do World War II, one of them modern, and one of them future? So you have some variety.
And Crap was one of the 60,000 people who pre-ordered the game.
You know what? Those BG charts things are wrong, man. Everybody's gonna buy this game just for Call of Duty 4.
That's the thing that appeals to me. Is not the new game. It's that, and they know that.
Yeah, I was gonna say their whole model right here, the stuff that everybody complained about when they first announced this. Everybody's like, well, screw it. We're gonna put the money into it anyway. So
well, did you see?
I'm really excited for Battlefield 1. That's my game to go for.
See, Battlefield 1's got my attention, but Battlefield, for me, the type of gamer I am, they just got to shrink the maps down a bit. They're just
giant maps and vehicles. Yeah, I'm not
too much going on in that. Here I am. I finally run up the hill with crap. I start sniping, and then a plane lands on my head.
Yeah.
I can't really wrap my head around that.
Well, you know what? Did you see, like, Infinite Warfare, they come out with a less sci-fi looking cover now, and they also come out with modern guns. So, like the M4, A1, and a Glock, I guess, is so they're trying to, I guess, maybe not make it as futuristic, maybe make it kind of more recognizable, which I say it's about damn time. But, it's
Destiny.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm excited for E3 too. Hey, Brad, do you think that Microsoft should definitely stay away from any kind of Scorpio stuff this year at E3?
I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they'll ruin anything that's coming this year if they're already talking about what's coming sometime next year. You know, insert your favorite date. But if it's not coming this year, I think it's really dangerous to talk about it.
Okay.
I think
I just wanted to double check because the audience is much bigger now than when we started. So if you guys didn't know, this is Brad Sams, and you write for Thoreau.com, right?
Yeah. So yep, I used to run neoin.net, and now I'm the executive editor for actually a company called Blue Whale Web, but that owns Petri.com, Thurrott.com, and then IT Unity. And so I run all that content, go into all the Microsoft fun stuff, and actually next week's going to be a big week on Thurrott.com, I think.
Okay. Are you going to E3?
No. So I travel a buttload. My wife travels 1 month of the year for work, and it's always in the middle of June. And it's like, oh. So no, I am not going to make it out to E3 this year.
Oh, that sucks. But yeah, I mean, I'm. Do you get as excited as like just normal gamers about this stuff?
Oh, sure. I love this stuff. I mean, I'm pretty heavily invested personally, just in all the Microsoft crap, and so I want to see what I'm going to be able to do with it. So yeah, I mean, I watch this stuff. You can just go watch the podcast, man. Like, I don't do this. I mean, it's great that it pays the bills, but I do this because I like it. Like, if I won the lottery, I would still be on this podcast talking with you guys because that's just what I enjoy.
I'm the same way. Like, I have a day job and stuff. I like talking about games and stuff. You know, it's like it's what I do for fun. And it's relaxing, so it's kind of fun to talk about it. Also, just real quick, because you probably realize this too, Microsoft hasn't really got a fair shot. Like, I know people will bring up the PS3 had that bungled launch, but people forgot about that within a year. Yep. The Xbox One is still suffering in the media and everywhere. So that's why I started my channel, or why we started doing these, was because people were like, and then we'll get messages saying, "Hey man, I didn't realize the Xbox One actually is decent, or it's good, or you know what I mean?" Like, because everywhere you look, it's just such a hate fest. So that's why we kind of do this too, is so that people realize it's not bad. You know what I mean? Like,
people don't like to really admit it, Brad. I mean, we kind of harp on it a little bit to try and bring it to, we bring the cream to the top here. But the media bias this generation against Microsoft. I mean, we all know Windows has always been hated. Microsoft is, the evil empire, all this stuff. But I mean, this was really something. This was over the top. You've got, things like Game Trailers, Kotaku, IGN, Polygon. I mean, they even did videos where they couldn't find the settings button. It was never that difficult. You pressed what was the start button. It was always there. I mean, it seemed like a clear dagger to the back of Microsoft, no matter what they did. Microsoft, they were complaining about TV. Now, this past week, we see that Microsoft has shelved the DVR function, which I think was a great idea on their part. We don't need that. A lot of people have either cut the cord or they have a cable provider which already has DVR service. And people told Microsoft to leave TV alone. So they're leaving TV alone, and then people complain, why don't I have my DVR? So it just seems like Microsoft gets a bad rap no matter what they do, and I think that's what Crap's alluding to as well. That's another reason a lot of us join. That's why one of the main reasons I did to hit the airwaves, and at least whether it's a few thousand people or not, it's not the point. Everyone talks to everybody in the world. So, I mean, did you notice that this generation, did you see a little extra Microsoft hate, in your opinion? You're out there in the press talking to people.
Yeah, well, it's because of their launch. It's to what you guys are saying. They've never been able to shake off what they initially announced, and they doomed themselves from the beginning. And this Xbox DVR stuff, regardless if you wanted it or not, it's negative press. They said it was coming, and now it's not.
Right.
And so they're really good at just continuously shooting themselves in the foot on a regimented basis that kind of keeps that angerness elevated.
Like what's interesting is, right, like, just since we started doing this, Polygon set out this article, and it says, Sony PlayStation 4 Neo, bad news for Microsoft, great news for you. And it goes on to say that it was a brilliant move to announce the Neo now, but not show it. Yes, not show it, because now you can see what Microsoft does and adjust accordingly. So this is the stuff that we argue against, because this stuff is real. And people say we're crazy when we say there's some media bias.
Oh, no, there is. It's still cool to hate Microsoft.
Yeah. It absolutely is. I remember like some of the stuff was like about power consumption. Oh, did you know that if you leave your Xbox to always be ready to go on, it sucks up this much power? You know what I mean? Like this was a huge deal. Like people were making articles about it, and you can't
Like
find settings.
$15 a year extra, yeah.
Yeah, or GameSpot, for example, they couldn't find settings on the Xbox One, right? They couldn't do it. They just couldn't do it.
But
So it's like, go ahead, Dre.
If you're a Windows Phone user, you're kind of used to this this kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm a Windows Phone
You're
user. I know.
by now.
Yeah,
Though
no,
I love my Windows Phone though.
it is something. I mean, in that article, that segment you just read, crap. I mean, you can see that there's an intent behind those words that says basically, don't worry. No matter what Sony does, if they decide they're going to show it at E3, they're heroes. Oh, they're retracting, they're pulling back. If Microsoft retracted and pulled back something that we thought was coming out this fall, the world would slightly collapse on one side, right? It would be like, what happened? They don't have their bearings. They don't know what they're doing. Sony pulls out last second when everyone speculated that Neo would be shown, and it's glorious applause. It's amazing. I don't know where this all comes from. I'm stunned personally, but I mean, I do want to thank Brad for coming on. Brad, I appreciate you also doing this podcast with us because, to be honest with you, I don't know if I heard you say it on one of your shows, but you're like, I'm only keeping this to a half an hour. I don't know if that was a week that you just had to go or what it was.
No. I generally keep it to like 40, 45 minutes or so. Mostly because that's just me like sitting in front of a mic and talking straight.
True.
So it's a little bit different when you have a panel.
Yeah.
This is very true. I would like to say thank you for coming on. I want to let everybody know that Brad was extremely receptive to doing this. He was going on vacation, so we were unable to get him after the bomb dropped, which was his great podcast. But was extreme. He even spoke to me once or twice on vacation.
Yep.
So
I always work.
Extremely reachable, great guy. He's at BD Sams, BDSAMS on Twitter. And Brad, tell us a little bit about, I know you mentioned it briefly, but let people know about your website and what you're doing, because I think people need to know, because Jez Corden, I want to say his name correctly, who works for Windows Central, was on last week and had nothing but great things to speak of you, and let people know that when you do speak, you're not rambling on and on. What you're actually doing is you're telling something. You're a credible source is where I'm going with this. So.
No, certainly. I mean, I really appreciate it. So I've been writing for 10 years. Right now, Thurrott.com is our consumer outlet of channels. So if you're looking for consumer style news, definitely recommend checking that out. But yeah, it's when I say something, I hate saying wrong things. And like I kind of get a little anxiety about these media streamers after seeing that people saying that they may not come out now and they might come out later. But I have a very long track record of getting credible leaks, and I've missed a few things. Not missed like meaning I was wrong, meaning I had them and just didn't want to talk about them until I was sure that they at least existed in some physical capacity before running it out there. We're not trying to do the clickbait stuff because that nobody wins when that comes out. So totally appreciate it, guys, but I do need to jump off here. Kid and wife are going to be home soon, and it's 4:30 on a Friday.
We truly appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brad, for being on and like
being a good sport.
No, appreciate it, guys. It's good.
I'll speak to you offline, and I'll be putting some of your credentials in the description, Brad.
Cool, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brad.
So that was really great. The man is extremely approachable. Like I said, I've spoke to him over the past 3 weeks. I've kind of been talking to him, but it's been hard, and you don't want to interfere on someone's personal vacation. So I left him some peace. But the minute he got back, he said, "Hey, are we going to do this or what?" And I was like, "Hell yeah!" So I mean, here we have it. Crap, you've got to be sitting. You must be floating right now in midair, because not only were you kind of right, you've debunked a lot of insiders on this show. So that's really great. I mean, now we got a positive attitude going in. And we had Jez on last week. Like I said, we were just talking about it. Jez spoke really high of Brad and said that when he says something, it's because he heard it from not somebody who called him or somebody who's got an alias.
He got document dumps is basically what happened. Go ahead.
Brad Sampson, Mary Jo Foley, and Paul Thurrott always gets the front seats in Microsoft events. They are like in the front row when they get invited to those things. So they know basically everyone in Microsoft at this point.
Well, what's interesting is I was proven right with a few things today, and so I'm kind of happy about that. One thing, it leaked that the Halo Wars 2 beta is going to be one of those things that they announced at E3 for that day.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
you're going to be at the downloads. I called that. You guys can check my video from like a week or two ago, and I said that. The other thing was I kind of suspected we would get no stronger hardware or no big hardware stuff this E3. No NX, no Scorpio, no Neo, and boom, none of that shit's going to be there, which leaves the focus on games, which I'm very excited about because I don't really give a shit about any of those, any of those hardware
No, but
iterations or any of that shit.
They don't have to show any hardware because AMD is just gonna walk over and push the red button. You know that.
Hey, that's true, Dre. And also, guess what? Sony Pony is very upset today, which also makes me very happy because we found out from Frank O'Connor himself, 5 million copies of Halo 5 in 3 months.
Oh,
Over 5 million in 3 months. Not only that, but even according to the NPDs, in the first month, Halo 5 sold more in the U.S. in 1 week than Uncharted 4 did in 3.
Uncharted in 3 weeks, yeah.
Yes, so yeah, all those people that Halo's dead, hey, if Halo's dead, then what the fuck is Uncharted? I just gotta say.
I just gotta say, it was a great day for me when I saw. I don't know if you saw on Twitter. I started hitting people up with memes and everything like that, letting people know. I've gotten so much hate saying that Halo is dead. 343 is killing the franchise.
Dude, that's the best multiplayer Halo ever, in my opinion. You know what I mean? It's so much fun. It's free. They're doing everything right.
That Kotaku article that they wrote about the from Lionhead Studios, the sources that they have. You know, I did a quick post on ICXM debunking all of that nonsense they spoke in that whole thing. And
well, it looks like IGN, his parent company, is buying Kotaku.
Yeah, they are bidding. They are going up for auction soon. Yeah.
Who's IGN's parent company? Viacom?
Ziff Davis. Ziff Davis, which is an internet media conglomerate and owner of IGN, has bought Gawker Media Group. So yeah.
Yeah, they bought Game Trailers the other day, right?
They might have. Wow, they're basically owning everything.
Well, there you go. There's your one stop for news and one opinion only.
Yeah. I know, right? Like they completely control the narrative. But yeah, Brad was a great guest. The reason why is because he doesn't sugarcoat it. Look, this guy is in the media telling people that the media is fucking biased. I mean, here's, like he basically co-signed with a lot of the stuff that I've been saying, and a lot of people think, crazy crap or whatever, right? But it sounds a lot more legit coming from a guy actually in the media. You know what I mean? When he says the same things I say, then people go, huh, maybe Crap and Mooch aren't so fucking crazy.
I know. And it's funny. There's even some people in the Xbox, and this is I'm dating myself. It was a little over a year ago. People in the Xbox community putting out videos saying, they did not mention Crap or my name, but of course everyone knows what we say. And they said basically, they're like, there is no media bias. Let's stop with this. And it's like, listen, look, if you decide to walk around life with a Pirates patch on, one eye open, that's fine. That's what's great about this country. You can look ridiculous and do that with a parrot on your shoulder.
Yeah,
myself personally, I got both eyes open.
There's no media bias when their favorite team is the one being championed.
That's true.
That's when they say there's no media bias. If the Xbox was the #1 selling console and the media was all over that, then these people would scream media bias the same way. It's
well, and what, in Dryer, that only holds a certain amount of water, and I'll explain why. When you had IGN that was pretty much being run for the last 5 years by Greg Miller before he left to do his own show. Okay,
right, broke a table.
Right, he broke a he did. He broke a table when the PS. But my point is that, there was still. You're right, because the Xbox was the darling. The 360 was the darling last gen. But when you tuned into IGN, you still got a full dose of Greg Miller, Colin Moriarty, and the cronies that liked the PS3.
Hit after hit.
Hit after hit. And whereas now Xbox, doesn't. We don't have an outlet. All we have is Zair's channel. Crab's channel, my channel, Xbot, Four Guys with Quarters, Console Corner, and I can go on and on. And there's a lot of
hey,
new.
watch out! Assassin's going crazy on Four Guys with Quarters now.
I'll tell you something. Shout out! Last night I did 2 raids with Assassin. Let me tell you something about you guys don't know about Assassin from Four Guys with Quarters. Probably only clowns know this. Assassin he didn't stop talking last night. We did a raid on Destiny, me, him, and a bunch of. Dude, he did not stop talking. He was talking. He's very vocal. He's not the guy from the podcast at all. So shout out to Assassins. Thanks for helping me on those raids. I want to do another couple. But my point is that, that's why people always say that. They're like, well, if you were winning, you wouldn't be saying that. I'm not necessarily sure that's true because I don't think Microsoft is next year. Microsoft's rumored to have this mega beast of a console. We've got way more IP coming out that anyone cares about in the AAA category than Sony, and people still hate on Microsoft. So what more do you want them to do in the gaming world? Like give everyone a free one when you walk into Walmart?
Hey, and you know what the good news is? Xbox One owners and fans can just enjoy the next year and a half. We're getting games.
Oh, yeah.
We're getting a lot of features, so we don't even have to worry about this stuff. If you know what I mean? Like, seriously, if Scorpio or whatever it is doesn't release till next holiday, that's four solid years. I mean, that's forgivable in my opinion.
And the PlayStation is gonna get their biggest game of the year delay.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, I don't know.
Delay
So
the game.
PlayStation, I watch Xbox's E3 presentation with excitement.
Oh, yeah.
And almost like when you're going to see a movie when you were a kid and you went with your parents the first time to the theater for the big screen. It's exciting. You don't know what they're going to do next. And Sony, I watch, and I'm just like, it's like when you're listening to your uncle who's full of shit. It's almost like you're sitting there and you're waiting to hear the crap that he's going to say that he's never going to, come over and fix that for your house. Don't worry about take care of you. Never shows up. My point is, like, Sony's going to have, and I heard what the rumors, The Last Guardian is going to come out this year. Anybody want to say too little, too late, and who gives a shit?
Mooch, not for anything. Isn't it like, if you look at everything they said last year, isn't it like maybe 20% of what they said is actually
8%.
8%. 8%.
Only 8% of what Sony shows at their E3 from last year has released.
How long How long are people gonna go through this without because if their consumer base doesn't call their bluff, doesn't call them out, doesn't demand better, they're just going to keep shitting all over their consumer base.
They're not. And you know what, crap? I know we talked about it. I think we touched base on it on this show, but it might have been BGST as well. The leaks and the things we were talking about. Oh no, it was Console Corner or Xbox Nation. We had all the leaks you had for the new Sony PS4 UI. I'm not sure if that stuff's even going to come to fruition. I'm not sure they can pull that together. They have simple things that just go wrong on their UI. I don't think they could do all that stuff with activity feed and community and all that other stuff. I think they'd have I think the thing would actually explode.
Well, I showed you. You saw the legit stuff.
But don't forget that's working on one stationary static PC. You know what I mean? Like we don't know if that's going to work across their platform.
Hey, I don't know.
Man, I'll tell you, I don't know if they're going to.
You can describe the PlayStation 4 fan base by just saying Stockholm syndrome.
True.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? We didn't talk about it all today. I was trying to see if Brad was interested in it, but he seems to be much more of a multiplayer social gamer. Recore is just sounding better and better every day.
Did you see the supposed leak for the release day, October 25th?
But you made a good point. Wasn't it you, Crap, or somebody on Console Corner?
I did. Look here's the thing, right? October 25th would be the U.S. release day because it says October 28th in the UK or whatever. But it maybe makes sense. But when's Gears releasing? Isn't it the 4th or something?
The 11th.
Okay, the 11th. I think it's the 4th. I think it's the 4th.
Maybe it is the 4th. It is.
Maybe they, because look what Halo did, right? They released Halo late in October and they won. Maybe they want that momentum going into November. So the people that are going, maybe I'll get an Xbox One for Gears. Oh, well, now there's going to be Recore too? You know what I mean?
So you're saying, go ahead.
When is Titanfall launching?
I'm here in September.
October.
Is it October? Do they have a release date?
Because I heard Battlefield 1 and Titanfall will launch within 3 weeks of each other.
Well, I mean, is Microsoft waving the white flag in the essence that they don't want to have a November release for anything, so they want to just get all their eggs out in September, August, September, October?
Yeah, I think November is going to be really busy. So October is a good time for Recall and Gears of War. So
Crap, did you hear about a Titanfall release date?
No, I saw that it looks like Sony has the marketing rights though.
No, stop
No,
it.
I
Just
swear.
stop it.
Look,
Just
they showed the
Limited
goddamn
edition.
collector's edition, and it's
Yeah.
the PS4 version.
Who did?
Respawn. They tweeted it out. The collector's edition info with all the stuff came out today, and they showed the PS4 version.
Mm-hmm.
So Vince Zappella's on record saying we couldn't have made this game initially without Microsoft, and then they went over to Sony for Titanfall 2.
Looking that way,
yeah,
man.
but, you have to remember that EA has to deal out these things equally. They can't give Xbox both Battlefield 1 and Titanfall. So they give Xbox Battlefield 1 and PlayStation 4 Titanfall 2.
I guess it just comes down to the fact that I think that, I don't know, myself personally, you can't use Star Wars. Star Wars is its own entity, okay? But these marketing rights things don't mean shit, because I mean Dark Souls 3 was with marketing rights for Xbox One. It doesn't matter, right? Dark Souls is always placed in basically a Sony environment. That's just the way it's built. It's just, I don't know. It kills me.
It surprises me, to be honest with you, because that game is known as a Microsoft fucking game as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I just, like, I could wake up with my head stapled to the carpet tomorrow, and I wouldn't be more surprised than what I saw, which was that fucking game is, wow. I mean,
but I think they have to get the PlayStation guys on board with Titanfall 2. That's why they got the marketing deal, because PlayStation 4 owners usually know, they think Titanfall is an Xbox game, so now they have to get that market into their camp now with Titanfall 2. That's why they
That's a good strategy.
Well,
Dre, I think you hit it. I think you hit the nail right on the head when you said that they can't give Microsoft everything. I'm pretty sure it might have been put on the table for Microsoft. It's like, okay, well, you have Battlefield, or you can have Titanfall.
Yeah, I think Battlefield 1 is the
I
best
think
deal
Battlefield
for them,
would have
I
been
think.
the better, I don't know, grab out of the two. That's just my own personal opinion.
fuck Battlefield, man. I'm not even going to play that
But
shit.
I'd say I'm just looking at it. I'm looking at it business-wise. I'm not looking at it as that gamer inside of me or anything. I'm looking at it as business-wise. Business-wise, I would probably grab Battlefield if I had the choice to pick either one.
No, I'm going Titanfall 2. I hate to say
Yeah,
it.
because Xbox guys already know the franchise, so they know Titanfall. So why would they buy the marketing rights for Titanfall 2?
Well, that's
if
true. I
Everyone
mean,
already knows the
if the
franchise.
logic I just said for Dark Souls is to be true, then that would mean Sony would want to put marketing dollars forward to let people know that it's available on their system. But at the same time, if it is true that the public perception is it's an Xbox game, Xbox should still win the sales race on that. I know that there's a difference in install base, but look at PlayStation owners don't look the multi-plat gamers went from Xbox to PlayStation this generation. That'll probably switch back with the Scorpio.
Maybe if they can get a different name out there, like a different perception. Like I said, and Brad Sands agreed with me that it's not so much about the power and stuff. It's just about that perception and the negativity.
They're gonna call it the Xbox One too.
Well, they dropped the one. If you look at the stuff, it just says Xbox. So.
No,
Yeah,
I think the best name for the new Xbox is Xbox 4K, because it's a 4th generation Xbox and it's going to play games in 4K.
I say you just call it Xbox 448. I'll give them the name.
That's true. I mean, they definitely need to rebrand it somehow. They will, because Brad said it too. This is Phil's first E3. The last few E3s were, hey Phil, you can decorate the room, but here's what you still have to talk about because it's still in Matrix's plans. You can't tell the public one thing and do a complete drastic change. These games that are all coming out now are all under Phil, right? Phil was there when they bought Gears from Epic. Phil's got the Recore thing. Phil's the one that's now doing whatever he's doing with the redesign of the Slim. This is his box coming out. It's his first touch on the look and feel of the box. That's why the controller, as little as things will be that they tweak, they are still Phil's little changes to make it his box. So this is a big deal. Myself personally, I will speak for myself. I want to see it first, so barring anything wild or crazy, I am planning to pick up a Slim. I have 2 Xbox Ones. I'll be trading one in and grabbing that. And just because here's the thing: when the Scorpio comes out, you still want to have the latest and greatest box to get the best trade into moving forward. So if I can get the most for one of my old Xbox Ones now, and then I can get the most for my Xbox One Mini, next year, it just betters my resale value revenue kind of increases, so I can pick up the new box. I recommend that to everybody, but
Yeah, I would like to pick up the Xbox Slim, but when it launches in South Africa, the Xbox Scorpio is already out in the US. So why do I do that?
Oh goodness.
Well, hey, they're not region locking it. I'll send one over to you, Dryer.
Yeah, I'll just import one.
Talking to Dryer, man. Sometimes you feel really bad for people who live down there. Yeah.
Where?
South Africa.
In the third world.
Man, like, he does not hold back in letting you know what gaming is like down there, and it's like, oh man, yeah, like do exactly what Mooch says. Like, all right, we'll send you one, man.
We'll just send you one. Crap. Anything else going on in the news this week? I was looking through. There's a lot of everyone seems to be doing speculation in E3 predictions.
Well, there's this leak about this website that surfaced for Crackdown.
Yeah, people were saying Crackdown was having problems, but it looks like it's gonna be at E3. So.
Yeah, I think the beta is gonna come open within the next few months.
First screenshots of Halo Wars 2 surface, and that looks fucking great.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I'm not a big RTS guy, but I will be hitting that beta.
Well, I think RTS with a controller, and it's built with a controller in mind, has got my attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Halo Wars 1 was awesome, so I think that it should be pretty fucking good.
I just want them to reveal Age of Empires 4. That's like my childhood dream right there.
Well, hey, did you hear like the whole NPD thing was Sony in a month when they released their biggest game only sold 207,000 PS4s. That's incredibly low.
Yeah, I saw that. They didn't even comment on that whole month. They said nothing. Microsoft said their usual PR thing, like we have the most Xbox Live hours, what. Nobody cares. But Sony didn't say a thing, and it was strange with their game hit #1, but they didn't say anything.
Well, I said it in my review, and it was hard to put into words. I was actually thinking as I wrote it, and it's even hard for me to say it now. Crap, you said it the other day on Xbox Nation too, is that I bought a PS4 for Uncharted 4, right? But I didn't buy it in May. I bought it last year. The point I was trying to get in my Uncharted 4 review was, is it a console seller? Yes, but no. Yes, in the fact that that's one of the reasons a lot of people went and got it back a while ago. But when you're looking at actual numbers and figures that come out in May 2006, it's not going to show that as a console seller because people already bought it for this game way back when we saw it in 2013.
And you have to remember, Uncharted was delayed so many times. People might have bought it at the first release date, and then it got pushed back, and then they had to wait. So that might be the reason. And then there's the whole Neo thing. People see that, and then they are like, okay, well, I'll just wait, and for the next console to be.
This is funny because now that Sony's not showing it at E3, but they already kind of stabbed themselves, didn't they? A little bit. They cut their wrist a little bit because they said it exists. So is that going to hurt Sony moving forward into the holiday?
It's going to hurt them, yeah. It's going to hurt them.
Well, the reason why they came out and said it, right? It's just so that people can, they didn't want people to be disappointed with their showing, right? So now you have people talking about this leading up to the event, And not only do you have people talking about it, but then you have people won't be disappointed now. There were people that were going to tune in just to see Neo, right?
Right.
Now they had that disappointment out of the way. They can just focus on VR or whatever the hell they're going to show.
So we're going to see VR. So we're going to get PSVR, and we're going to get 4 CGI trailers of games that we'll see in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Well, you heard Rand, right? Like, well, I don't know if you heard Rand. He stopped in a bit for.
Yeah, I caught. He popped in.
Yeah, he said it's going to be there. If there's something at all that they can show, no matter if it's 3-4 years from now, they're going to show it. So I would expect Kojima to be there talking about his game. I would expect Shenmue 3 or Last of Us 2. They're going to do whatever it takes.
Yeah,
I'm really excited for the Crash Bandicoot Skylanders figurine.
Yeah, can't wait to see what Sean Layden wears this year. What character is going to stretch out to look like the Marshmallow Man? Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm excited. I do want to remind the audience. Crap's been doing a great job of it. I'd like to do it now. We are doing a pre-E3 show on my channel. I do believe I'm going to start it up at around 11 o'clock. The invites will go out to, of course, Crap Gamer, Zaire, Showstopper, Tim Dog, and we're going to do 11 to I think it starts 12:30 is when Phil goes live. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, 12:30 Eastern is.
We only speak in Eastern
I think
term.
It's 9:30. Is it
9:30?
That's Pacific.
Pacific time. That's the Daydreamers.
That's southbound.
Yeah, that's southbound.
When
we're eating lunch.
6:30 p.m. in South Africa, so it's perfect for me.
Yeah, no, it actually is. Well, it's perfect for you, but the Sony conference. Well, the Sony conference would be when for you then?
I'm not gonna sit and wait until 1 o'clock in the morning for that.
No, well, you're not wasting your. Me and Crap will waste our lives for that.
See, I just got an information, not saying who. I got a DM from you. Got one too, Mooch, that said.
You're an insider.
Yeah, well, no, I would say not a true insider, but someone that asked, does Sony have marketing on Titanfall 2? And the other person responded no. And then I've been told this is from a reliable source. But the leaked images for Titanfall 2 are all for the collector's edition are all PS4 version. So I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll know.
Maybe that's just like last generation, everything was for the Xbox 360. So this gen, it's just default to PlayStation 4, I think.
Could be. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, so we are. I just want to reiterate. So we are doing 11. This is all Eastern time, people. The Lord's time, the right time. 11 o'clock a.m. We are doing on my channel the pre-show, which you'll get a little bit more predictions, a little more things that are going to be squeaking out. We'll have Major Nelson's. We'll all be watching as well as I'm sure the people tuning in. Major Nelson's red carpet affair that he does before, so that'll be on during my show. Zaire Next Gen 720 is going to have the actual live show on his channel, with our responses and reactions, and then Crap's going to take up the back end of this, where we have our post game analysis and how we kind of looked at everything, dive into it. What we thought was coming.
Yeah. So basically at 11.
And then you guys can fight again and call each other names after the show.
that's all day. But yeah.
Well, so 11 on Mooch's channel, and then 12:30 on Zaire's channel, and then probably around 3 on mine, and then we come back and do that shit again at like 9. I think Play Sony's is at 9, so we do that, and then we do like a quick after show on mine. I'm not sure if Mooch wants to do a pre-show for Sony.
No, we don't need it. No, I'm good. I'm good. Nobody wants to hear me just like drinking a lot of whiskey and cursing, so no, that's that. Yeah, no, you'll definitely want to tune in for the Sony ones as well. People are like, why would I tune in to listen to you guys? Because it will be funny. We can promise you that.
It's usually pretty funny.
Yeah, we're usually a couple of drinks in before the Sony one. So, I do want to thank everybody. I'm sorry we did come a little bit early. We usually start Crossfire.
We have that problem. Guys usually do.
But, we had to basically get here. Brad was unable. Thank you, Crap. Appreciate that. I feel like I'm at the Flamingo doing a one-liner open mic. But Brad was only able to make it at 3 o'clock, and we definitely wanted to accommodate him. We appreciate it. We thank him for coming on, and I thank the rest of the panel. Crap, any other? Well, I don't think you need to plug anything. We just kind of plugged the next 3 days for us.
Yeah, I mean that shit's crazy. I have a video dropping at 7 on my channel about basically me going in on the Halo sales and stuff. It was kind of funny. So you guys want to check that out around 7. It'll be going live. So yeah.
How about you, Dryer? Any plugs?
Just check me out on icxm.net, Xbox Mad. Check me out on Twitter, and that's.
Oh, you had a nice article today about the Fable thing with Kotaku.
Yeah, that's what I talked about. I just went in all out. The guys over there at ICXM were like, "That's brilliant. We need more of that."
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Nice. Keep it up. We love it.
I just read that whole thing, and they don't even have any sources for this. They don't name any names, and they just ripped on Microsoft. And I was like, okay, well, let me just fix this whole thing and put them straight.
I'm glad you did, because there's not enough people out there that actually do what you call journalism and research. So thanks for doing your job. I wish others could follow suit. And Clowns, I've been having a hectic week, but I have yet to watch Four Guys with Quarters. How was yesterday's show, and when can we see it again?
Oh, yeah, you can check us out every Thursday at 6 p.m. at 4guyswithquarters.com, youtube.com/4guyswithquarters, and twitch.tv/4guyswithquarters.
Very cool. Xbot448, tell us how the channel's doing and what.
He's bummed out because Brad Sams was like, no, that shit's too expensive to do stack GPUs.
No, actually, crap. He put it in the price point that I was talking about. He said you would have to make it about $200. That is exactly what I said.
Yeah, but he's also saying, what he also said is it's confusing. It wouldn't really appeal to mass market.
I got you. I got you. Hey,
it's cool,
man.
Man.
And see what happens, man. I got that hashtag UWP. I've been walking on air ever since then. So
I think the whole upgradable Xbox thing is a good idea, but
I think it's going to happen.
Microsoft won't do that. They would let an OEM do that and make an upgrade. They can give the OEMs the leeway to create a box where you can upgrade it. But I think Microsoft would make a fixed box, like a reference design, and nothing special about it, because that's what they do with Surface and the Windows phones. They don't really push the boundaries with that. They just push just hard enough to get the OEMs
they made a liquid cool. They gave it a liquid cooling system in XL. But yeah, I'm gonna archive I'm gonna archive this video for crap Mooch. I'm gonna archive this video, and I'm gonna wait and see what happens here, because I swung and I haven't missed too many times, so we'll just keep it at that. But in terms of what's going on, go ahead, Jai.
Okay. Yeah, all I'm saying is that they just want to push the OEMs to create hardware that's really compelling, because for the last 20 years OEMs just been pushing out the same bland old shit that nobody wants to buy. And that was the old Surface point with they just pushed the OEMs. So I think the next Xbox would do that. Just push them slightly into the right direction and get the OEMs to really innovate. That's what Microsoft wants to do with their hardware.
I got you. See,
that's just my point of view. Yeah.
This is one of the great things about being in podcasts, and like Mooch, I tell you all the time, man, thank you for bringing me on here.
Absolutely.
And all this good stuff. There's so many different opinions, there's so many different thought processes and stuff like that. It's always good to come in and talk to you guys, hear different opinions and stuff, and then kind of formulate where you think it's going to go from there. And I absolutely love doing this with you guys.
And that's why I think we have good chemistry on the show. And I do want to thank everybody. And one last plug, I'd like to let everyone know, please do check out bgstpodcast.com. Crap's got a lot of great stuff. I believe Zaire, I am dedicating this weekend to getting my blog stuff up and some videos. So
hey, I got some good pictures. I got some
just
good
want-
pictures of Greg Miller and IGN partying with Yoshida, but there's no bias.
No, none at all.
Yeah,
Not
you
at
know, I just watch BTST when Tim Dog's on. You know, he screams at everyone.
Great. It is great. You may get a lot of. Well, actually, no. Tim Dog's going to be at E3, so he won't be with us. I don't think he'll be with us live, but he may call in when he can.
Yeah, I catch up with all the podcasts eventually, you know. But I'll try to watch yours pre-show.
Yeah, I
Because
tune in,
I'll be-
guys, because I think the pre-show's going to be exciting because the pre-show's actually going to be again a little bit more speculation, and it seems like news is breaking every hour as we creep towards E3. So there's still some more
Today
juicy.
was pretty hectic.
Yeah, there's
Today
a lot
was
of
quite
juicy.
hectic.
A lot of juicy information coming out. With that, I will end this week's Crossfire podcast. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and have a great weekend, and we'll see you at E3.